are despicable, and you have left a wake of hurt and trauma. Smith was ordered to serve 1 to 15 years in the Utah State Correctional Facility. It will be up to the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole to determine whether or not he is given any credit for time previously served when he is released. KBNU News Time is 5:05. KBNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies, low around 60. Partly cloudy, then mostly sunny, mid-90s on Wednesday. West winds 10 to 20 miles an hour in the afternoon. Upper 90s Thursday. It's been to 92. It's 92 degrees right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by the Duct Hunter. If your clothes dryer isn't drying, it might be the dryer vent. Don't buy new. Call the Duct Hunter. They'll come clean it out for you. 435-770-4813.
If you're a do-it-yourself kind of guy or gal, then your locally owned Napa Auto Parts store is a good place to know. At Napa, they feature all the best brands. Croyle, Amsoil, Schaefer, BG, Seafoam. Find the parts, find the oil you need to keep your car and equipment running best. And for the times you need professional help working on your car, they can recommend a dozen Napa Car Care Centers with ASE certified techs. 5 locations locally owned. Preston to Providence. Voted Auto Parts Gold winner, Best of Northern Utah. Napa Auto Parts.
KBNU News Time is 5:06. In a recent visit to Utah, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis addressed concerns over how slavery is taught in the state's new curriculum. A new Florida law requires schools to teach about the historical impact of slavery in an age-appropriate manner. However, it's the interpretation of this curriculum that has sparked controversy. His comments referred to the curriculum's portrayal of slaves developing skills that could have been used for their personal benefit. The curriculum, a 216-page document, was put together by a group of scholars and is touted by Governor DeSantis as the most robust African-American history anywhere in the country. This portrayal of slaves benefiting from their enslavement has faced backlash. Utah House Democrats have said they are deeply concerned and disappointed by DeSantis' comments. James Tobler, head of the Salt Lake Education Association and a high school social studies teacher, said his initial reaction was kind of frustration. Tobler said there's an evolving dynamic of teachers being micromanaged and dictated what to teach that's causing educators to leave the profession. And an artist's rendering has been released for the Cleveland, Ohio Temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Cleveland, Ohio Temple will be built at Independence, Cuyahoga County, Ohio. Plans call for a single-story temple covering approximately 9,900 square feet. The Cleveland, Ohio Temple was announced in April 2022 by church president Russell M. Nelson. Officials with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints also released the location of the Bakersfield, California temple. That temple is set to be built on a 13-acre site. KBNU News Time is 5:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
When a tiny drop causes a ripple and becomes a wave, it travels through all corners of the planet, sustains all forms of life, and provides streams of wonder, rivers of adventure, and oceans of discovery. One drop connects us all. Reserve your visit now to Loveland Living Planet Aquarium, a nonprofit organization.
Just like you, a healthy tree is a happy tree. At Hull Tree Care, their team is dedicated to caring for your trees. By now, your trees and shrubs are growing like crazy. Perhaps you have some trees blocking your view or posing a potential threat. If so, call Hull Tree Care. They'll get your trees in perfect shape and enhance their beauty. Need a tree or stump removed? No problem. Their cleanup crew will leave your yard clean and tidy. Call 760-6587. That's 760-6587. Or visit HULLtreecare.com.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Hour 2 of today's show, Wednesday, July 26th. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. And I'm really excited about this. I'm so glad to have a friend here to discuss this with, because it is one of the most interesting topics whenever it comes up. And to have it come up in official capacity like this is rare. So what happened as a setup for this? Well, first off, our guest here in the studio is a good friend of the show, been a guest multiple times over the years for various different reasons, but joining us here in the studio, I should say longtime listener too, of course, right?
For sure.
Kimball Mortensen here in the studio with us, and we are going to spend the next hour and invite you to join us talking about UFOs. Seriously. This is, so today, and I have video of this, but for some reason, the video I was going to send to Bill to play a little 2-minute clip of CNN. Let's get into the conspiracies right off the bat. CNN has scrubbed the video. It's black. It's silent. There's no audio.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right? So what happened today? In Congress, the House Oversight Committee convened a hearing today on UFOs. And 3 retired military veterans testified at the House hearing today on what we're calling unidentified anomalous phenomena, commonly known by the rest of us as UFOs, and warning that the sightings are a national security problem and that the government has been too secretive about them. Now, what's interesting about this is they weren't talking aliens necessarily. They weren't talking, invasion from another planet or another universe. What they're talking about is a simple fact that there are a lot of these unidentified anomalous phenomena, sightings and reports all the time, and it could be a matter of national security. It could be something from another country. It could be a surveillance drone. It could be an attack of some kind. But the problem is the government, these 3 retired veterans say, the government is being too secretive about it. And it's cutting a lot of smart people out of the loop, people who could maybe figure out what's going on. And so the Congressional Oversight hearing was geared towards, why are we being so secretive about this? What is the big secret? And that's where things just got really, really interesting today. Did you watch any of it? Did you get a chance to?
Yeah, that was great.
I saw a lot of it after the fact.
I'll just say, if you've been following the topic, it's basically nothing was said today that hasn't been said. At least very little was said today that hasn't already been stated by these gentlemen.
Sure.
David Grush, Ryan Graves, and David Fravor, 2 Navy pilots, and then one was David Grush was and he's the most recent, whistleblower that's come out. But he was he fought in Afghanistan, and then he was part of the National Geospatial Office or something, NRO. Yeah. And then he was also assigned to some of these UAP task forces. Basically, that Congress, beginning in 2022, wrote language into the NDA, the National Defense Act, that the appropriations bills, basically language dictating that these, organizations siloed deep within government that might have information on this topic need to come to Congress and report what they know.
Sure. Start sharing a little bit, right?
Yeah, and this is in lieu of a bunch of videos that came out in 2017, and then a man named Lou Elizondo was tasked by Senator Harry Reid, actually, in kind of a black project. It was kind of top secret, but he was tasked with investigating UFOs, UAP, whatever. and did so. He wasn't getting a lot of attention. People, he would do his job and report it, and everyone was just like, how are the Dodgers doing? Like,
Yeah,
they just didn't
change the subject.
So he
really
resigned
quick.
in 2017. Luis Elizondo resigned from his position in the Department of Defense and wrote an open letter to General Mattis at the time stating, look, like, this is a serious, important topic. It's jeopardizing our pilots. It's interfering with training exercises and whatnot. There've never been any like threats that we know of yet, but yeah. And from that point forward in 2017, this topic kind of went from like a crackpot, wackadoo, tinfoil hat to like, okay, this is actually a real thing. The New York Times is reporting on this, and now Congress is getting involved. So today, we had a bunch of whistleblowers that were called to testify in a congressional hearing. This is the third UAP hearing since, I think, the 60s.
And all of them basically said the same thing, that to kind of paraphrase, they all said this is actually an issue of sort of government transparency. And we have these organizations that are cataloging, investigating, but you use the word siloed. I think that's perfect. They're siloed. They're not sharing their findings with other agencies, with the military even sometimes. No one knows if there's anything to all of this or not. But it could be an issue of national security. It could be, there were so many reasons why they should share information more regularly. What was interesting to me, though, is through the whole hearing, a few senators asked, or representatives asked about this. Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee was one, Tennessee Republican. He asked about it. No one ever had a good answer, but the question came up again and again. Why the secrecy? What is because national security matters are discussed in careful channels. It's not, they're not just sitting in a panel on CNN discussing it, but agencies share information. They have joint meetings. And the whole purpose is coordination and everybody being on the same page. And several members of Congress today pointed out this seems to be the one area, UFOs seems to be the one area where that isn't the case. And no one has an answer as to why.
Right.
Other than maybe habit and history. But then that's where it kind of gets even more interesting to me, because this is obviously for decades now, more than half a century,
right?
The UFO thing has been kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke, something that everyone cracks the occasional joke about, but at the same time, we all kind of want to believe some of the stories are true, right? Because
mystery.
That's more exciting. Yeah, the mystery is part of the excitement. To me, it starts to seem like this might be a situation where information isn't shared, where people aren't discussing this because they don't want to look like a wackadoo.
Right.
They don't want everybody like, oh, sure, Mr. Tinfoil Hat, And so you have these people in official roles, top military roles, for example. Who wants to be the first person to go out and say, hey,
why would you jeopardize your career?
Something actually happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Careers have been lost over this. Probably lives too. But
sure.
and it just to point out, there's a great YouTube channel that documents meticulously the history behind all this.
Like the actual confirmed.
Yeah, Red Panda Koala. He goes through, Project Sign and Project Blue Book and all the, and honestly, the biggest the biggest news conference since World War II was held in 1952. So it was, not. It was fairly recent to World War II, but since World War II, the biggest conference they had over these UFOs that were appearing over the U.S. Capitol way back in 1952. And the government took it seriously for about a year and then pivoted their direction. And this YouTube channel documents this. It's called Red Panda Koala. So just think of the two animals. Funny name, but very serious researcher.
Yeah.
And basically at some point the government
confirmable things,
right? This is not infotainment. This is not ancient aliens.
This is stuff where there is a record, government record of an investigation of some kind.
And statements of officers and individuals who worked in these organizations and departments within the government. Basically, what the U.S. government eventually decided to do was, whatever they found out or have found out since then, we may not know as far as the origin of the thing or what impact it poses to us. But at some point, it's pretty obvious that they wanted the American citizenry focused more on the Soviet threat than these UFOs, which didn't seem to pose a threat. There were no aggressive things. And so the government actually systematically, they did things to make the topics taboo and stigmatized.
Yeah.
So this wasn't just like, it's kind of a funny topic, and there's other reasons why it's funny, but they didn't want people paying attention to it. And so, his YouTube channel goes very in-depth in all that. And, they were even instrumental in producing the National Enquirer publications you'd see at the grocery store, the most outlandish pictures and stories. So
they would leak photos to tabloids that weren't taken seriously just to turn all of this into a joke.
Some true, some false. They would mix all of it together. So,
it was so successful. This came up during the hearing today. It was so successful that one of the witnesses today said that they know that commercial pilots, people flying the commercial planes, aren't reporting sightings of these unidentified aerial phenomena, they call them now, to avoid the UFO and its stigma. So these pilots, commercial pilots, are seeing them. They're not reporting them because they don't want to look crazy. That's how successful this campaign was to get everyone. And so one part of me says, look, if they dug into this and realized there was a national security threat, like maybe these are, surveillance craft from China or something like that, just as a hypothetical, not a stretch to imagine that. We just had the balloon incident, but so maybe that's what they found. And that was the end of it. I want to say if they found something more serious, it seems like there would have been a noticeable reaction of some kind. Something big happened in response if it was more of a threat. But then you hear the testimony today and realize no one has a clue because the agencies aren't talking with each other and sharing information. So they don't really know if what each organization is treating as an isolated incident. They don't really know if it's a coordinated, sustained thing.
Yeah.
That surprised me because that's the one thing government is usually good at is collecting and tracking data, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Fascinating stuff. If you'd like to join us, 753-5868. Kimball Mortensen, our guest here in the studio, is a longtime friend of the show. He's been following the story closely, and today the much talked about hearing occurred. It was a hearing in Congress. 3 whistleblowers, including a retired U.S. Navy commander and former Air Force intelligence officer, testifying before Congress saying, look, we know this is happening. We know that the numbers are large. The incident reports are many in number. And we also know that no one is really sharing information with anyone else. So we don't have a clue what's really going on here.
It's all about sharing information. And
sure.
Burchett made it he really drove the transparency thing. He drove that pretty hard, and I think that's good. He had something he said that I loved. He said, we can't trust a government which cannot trust its people. And, they're likely large parts of the data they have that, may not, probably is best not made known to the public. I mean, whereas it pertains to national defense, I wouldn't want them necessarily revealing that because as soon as they make it known to us, it's known to China and Russia, so.
Sure.
But
you can understand why certain keep secrets would be kept. This seems like a breakdown.
Well, it is. It's more than that, right? It's more than just fancy technology that maybe we have reverse engineered or at least attempting to. And that actually was stated today over the Congressional record, under oath. David Grush talked about how we have a UFO retrieval program. It possesses several of these things, multiple, including like non-human deceased corpses from pilots, and it's just this was said today under oath. I mean, if that's a lie, he committed perjury.
I did a double take.
We're living in interesting times, and so these things sound outlandish. They were made outlandish by this same government that's being cagey about the information.
Yeah.
And it's worth talking about for sure, and considering, thinking about.
You're right. Representative Burchett, again, a Tennessee Republican. One of the things he said, he was cognizant of this. He realized, this could turn into a joke very quickly. This whole hearing, and so he kept bringing it back in. And he said, one of his statements today, he said, "Look, we're not talking about bringing little green men on flying saucers into a congressional hearing. What we're going to get are the facts. We're going to uncover what is known to be a decades-long cover-up by the U.S. government.
Yep.
We know that for a fact. What we don't know is why the cover-up. Was it a communication breakdown? Was it agencies being siloed and selfish with their information? Was it lack of direction from the top in the military circles? Who knows? We need to understand." I thought that nailed it perfectly. Because
really did.
And again, he's pointing out this is one of the few areas where this happens, because it's the one thing that the federal agencies have been good at over the years, is sharing information and tracking data.
Yeah.
Except in this one situation where it completely breaks down for some reason. I want to note this, too, for listeners as we head towards the news break. This was back in April. You mentioned this, Kimball. Sean Kirkpatrick, the director of the Pentagon's, I made a note of this, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office.
ARROW.
First off, does it have to have that complicated of a name?
It's better than its predecessor. Man, in January they had a title that was just, anyway.
I forgot about that one.
ARRO, I think.
Yeah, ARRO. So this was during back in April. Congress created this resolution office to focus on this and try to do it. I don't want to say behind the scenes, but they realized this could turn into a joke, so they wanted to do it kind of quietly. And back in April, they started this and thought, you know what, okay, we can start connecting dots. We can start piecing reports generated by different agencies and organizations in intelligence and the military and all of that, piecing it all together, and we'll get a picture, and the answer will probably be something very innocuous, and then we'll know why it broke down and we can fix it. What they found since April is that's not the case. What they found was extreme resistance. So when they went in with questions that should not be difficult, like, okay, you did this investigation. You told no other entities within the military about it. Why did that happen?
Yeah.
They had doors slammed in their faces. It's absolutely fascinating. And it makes you...
It is, yeah.
It begs the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it does, yeah. And whether it's really advanced technology that we now have that we're trying to keep under wraps, or whether it's something much greater impact.
Sure.
I guess there's some conspiracy theories that are like this could really shake up society. I mean, it actually could destroy society. Just the knowledge of what's going on and you know what I mean. And it's like that means that somehow this is tied to us or our existence or our consciousness, and it gets out there. So who knows? Like, we've yet to really learn why it is that these government departments are being so cagey. There's a great journalist, John Greenwald. He's got a website called theblackvault.com, and he's produced over 10,000 documents via FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. He's produced 10,000 documents where he's FOIA'd, the government for any declassified or, what's it called when they mark it up? Censored, I guess, documents. Yeah. And there's stuff we can learn there, but we also are learning that a lot of this information likely is in the hands of private entities, where some of this technology has been handed over to someone else, and in that case, you can't FOIA it. So it's easier for them to keep it a secret, right?
Yeah, that brings me back to, so people on the internet today, they're having the best time with his comment about this, quote, non-human pilot. And everyone's like, oh, this guy's a crackpot. Why is Congress wasting their time with this? And then someone...
You look at his credentials and it's like...
Yeah, someone jumps in and said, you're the one that's assuming he's talking about little green Martians. What if he was talking about robotic pilot systems in a foreign government's military's arsenal?
Or future humans.
Yeah.
Or like...
and the conversation just went dead quiet. They're like, oh. and that's what's at stake here. Like, there could be an actual threat. There could be information that, as you said, could be very disruptive. They just don't want us to know regarding new technologies, things like that. Either way, what we do know is they're keeping a secret. Congress has tried to get to the bottom of it quietly, and they've been stonewalled. So now Congress, I think, doing the right thing is saying, all right, we're going public with this.
Yeah.
And it started today with this hearing. We'll keep talking about it. We'll also spend a little time on why conspiracy theories about all this stuff are kind of fun for us all. There's some psychology to that. And more of what was said at the Congressional hearing on UAPs, as we're calling them now, not UFOs. This happened today. If you'd like to watch the video, I've linked to some of it on our Facebook page. Kimball Mortensen, our guest here on the show, longtime friend of the show, and someone who's been following this closely the last several months. 753-5868 if you want to join us. Look at the news now with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:31, and the news is brought to you by Logan Extermination. Have a great time, play some basketball, and benefit the community at the same time. The Do It for Dawson 3-on-3 basketball tournament will be held all day on August 5th at Mountain Crest High School. On KVNU's For the People program on Tuesday, organizer Keisha Baldwin told us about how it came to be.
Last May of 2022. So Dawson Pugmire is the fourth son of Nate and Jamie. And he, unbeknownst to anyone, had a malformed blood vessel in his brain that one morning burst. And they, rushed him to the hospital, rushed him to primary children's, tried to relieve the pressure on his brain, and it was just too much for him. So he passed away on May 15th.
She said his family is big into basketball. His dad played at Southern Utah University, and other family members have played or are playing. So naturally, Dawson caught the basketball bug too. So this tournament is to honor his legacy and his love for the game and people at a young age. Beneficiaries have been Primary Children's Hospital and Mountain Crest Sub for Santa.
And their basketball team was able to help a family in their community who had lost their father. And then they also donated money to Wellsville City, where Dawson is from, to go towards building a community center in the middle of town to just bring more people together. So this year, the same kind of thing. We'll donate to Primary Children's. And then if there whatever other need arises in the community, they want to be able to help.
Halftime activities are open to everyone from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. for $5 each, and the day will feature appearances from USU basketball players. But the deadline for teams to compete is this Friday, July 28th. You can contact Keisha for more information at 435-770-3610 or search Do It for Dawson 3v3 on Facebook. The state of Utah is asking a judge to hold the social media company TikTok in contempt of court for what it claims is a refusal to respond to subpoenas. It's part of the state's brewing lawsuit against social media for alleged harms to children. The filing accuses TikTok of refusing to comply to administrative subpoenas issued by the Utah Department of Commerce. Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes said in a statement, "For too long, two essential questions have gone unanswered. How is TikTok conducting itself in the state of Utah, and how is it impacting the lives of children?" That is why, he said, they have filed a motion asking the court to order TikTok to cooperate with other subpoenas, and they will not accept further excuses or delays. No one is above the law. Tuesday's court action confirmed the Utah Department of Commerce was actively investigating TikTok. KVNU News Time is 5:34.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Treatment areas vary. Call for a quote today.
Republican leader Mitch McConnell suffering an episode in front of the cameras at a press conference today, appearing unable to speak for a time. His colleagues leading him away, but McConnell returned 12 minutes later. Aides said he felt lightheaded. The plea deal for Hunter Biden was turned away today by the judge over concerns with some of the terms of the agreement, bringing an unexpected halt to proceedings. ABC Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas breaks it down.
Judges who are overseeing these agreements, they don't like messy. They want clear, definitive language that they can bless us to say, okay, this passes legal muster or it doesn't. And it didn't pass that threshold today. So she basically said at the end of the day, you got 2 weeks, come back to me with language that clears up some of the issues that were brought forth today.
Testifying at today's UFO hearing on Capitol Hill, a former Air Force intelligence officer claiming the U.S. is in possession of alien bodies. Dave Packer, ABC News.
KVNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies, low around 60, and then partly cloudy in the morning, becoming mostly sunny, mid-90s for the high. West winds 10 to 20 miles an hour in the afternoon. It's been to 92. It's 91 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Maple Creek Ranch, one of the most beautiful places to build a home in Cache Valley. National Forest, hiking trails, streams right out your backyard. Go to maplecreek.net to get more information. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
If it's leaking, replace it. If it's worn, replace it. If you're constantly worrying about it with every windstorm, replace it. What are we talking about? Your roof. Palmer's Metal Mart is your place for a long-lasting, great-looking metal roof for your home, cabin, barn, or shed. Metal roofing is the put-it-up-and-forget-about-it roofing solution. For almost 30 years, people have chosen Palmer's Metal Mart for metal roofing for their selection, price, and most importantly, the professional help you get with your project. From start to finish, Metal Mart can help you with all the options for your amazing metal roof. Whether it's an accent on your roof or a complete re-roof, Palmer's Metal Mart is the place to go. Metal provides a unique and timeless look that gives the wow factor to any project. So come see the metal roofing experts at Palmer's Metal Mart, located in Lehigh and Logan. We're ready to help. Ask about quick same-day will calls or delivery to your door. Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store.
Are you a renter looking for peace of mind and affordable insurance coverage? This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. As an independent auto owner's insurance agency, we have access to multiple insurance carriers and will give you options. We offer renters insurance policies that can be tailored to fit your needs. From protecting your personal belongings to liability coverage, Quality First has you covered. Call us today for a free quote. Auto Owners and Quality First Insurance.
Time is your most precious resource, so why waste another minute with blurred vision? At Monson Vision, we specialize in providing custom, permanent vision restoration for maturing eyes. If you're looking to ditch your glasses and contacts once and for all, you can with custom lens replacement. Dr. Monson can permanently correct astigmatism and both nearsighted and farsighted vision. Call Monson Vision today and turn back the clock on aging eyes. Visit MonsonVision.com.
The Aggies are returning home. Beginning this season, USU football and basketball will be back on KVNU.
Touchdown, Utah State!
State! Listen to every game static-free at 102 FM, 610 AM, and online at kvnutalk.com or the KVNU mobile app.
It's recovered by Utah State, and the Aggies get the touchdown.
The season begins September 2nd when Utah State travels to Iowa to face the Hawkeyes. Join us in welcoming the Aggies back to KVNU, the home again for the Aggies.
In your mind, you have capacities, you know, to telepath messages through the vast unknown. Please close your eyes and concentrate with every
Welcome back to
thought you
KVNU's For the People. Fun conversation here. We have a caller on the line. You're welcome to join us, 753-5868. We're talking UFOs. Seriously. We are talking about today's congressional hearing. Now, they're not calling them UFOs. To avoid the stigma, which we've kind of discussed, was actually intentionally created by, ironically, the same government now, wondering why they can't get answers. They're calling them UAPs now, which is unidentified aerial phenomena, but it's UFOs. Here's a statistic that really stood out to me today from today's hearing. Again, 3 whistleblowers, former military officers and intelligence officers, a former Navy commander, credible people. And what they were basically saying is, look, we know that these sightings and reports are happening. We know that they're frequent and sometimes even seem coordinated. What we don't know is what happens after that, because no agencies are talking. Nobody's sharing information with other agencies. Even the military is having a hard time getting answers sometimes. And this is one that stood out to me before we get to our caller here, Kimball. It was 650 cases that they can find right now that they know the government, some government agency, the military, whoever it might be, 650 cases where they know there is an ongoing tracking and investigation of a credible, unidentified aerial phenomena sighting report. And Republican lawmaker, this was Kirkpatrick, said, we prioritized half of them in our investigation so far and found them to be anomalous interesting value. So they took half of them and said, all right, these are likely, someone saw a drone, someone saw a weird reflection off an airplane. But the rest of them, they said, okay, there's something here. Some of the locations raised red flags. You mentioned this, like sightings
right
over the White House and things like that.
Way back when, yeah.
Yeah. And so Kirkpatrick says, approaching this from a national security perspective, saying, okay, we'll just look at the locations of reports where there could have been an obvious national security risk, even if it was just a spy drone or something like that. We want to know, okay, what did you find when you investigated? And that, he said, guess what? We could not get answers. No one would even talk to Congress when they started looking into this in April.
Right.
It's just mind-blowing.
And one of the witnesses from today, he's the most recent, again, David Grush. He came out in June, but a big part of his whistleblowing is he's actually reporting on like white-collar crimes that are done within some of these organizations.
Sure.
And he's basically saying, there's been a decades-long effort to discredit and disenfranchise the whole topic, and a lot of it continues to this day. I mean, Congress specifically made the language even more specific in the 2023 NDA, back in December.
Yeah.
And despite the more pointed language, these people, these organizations, departments, whatever, are not reporting the things that Congress has asked them to report. It's just,
sure.
And so, David Grush has come out and basically made statements that are almost exactly contradictory to what this Kirkpatrick guy, who's the spokesperson for this ARROW, which is this program that Congress set up to do this. And so it's like this whistleblower is contradicting the very congressional body, contradicting their spokesman's statements, and it's like, what is going on? It's wild.
And then to have Kirkpatrick in the end come back and kind of agree with him by saying, look, we can get answers ourselves, which kind of proves his point, the whistleblower's point. That's and I love this part as well. Ryan Graves. Now, this guy's a former Navy pilot who runs an organization now called Americans for Safe Aerospace. He's convinced that these sightings are a matter of national security because, in his opinion, these are foreign governments surveilling us. And he is also, he said, almost convinced that the U.S. government knows this is happening and won't share data with even the military sometimes. Intelligence agencies, he says, won't share data with the military. That's his theory. And he said today, that's a theory, but it's a sound one. He cites this data where, so their job as Americans for Safe Aerospace is to encourage commercial pilots to report sightings, incidents of UAPs. And back to this again, they can't get them to do it. They're so afraid of being stigmatized and even losing their job for being labeled as a crackpot for reporting something they see while they're flying a commercial flight across the country. And Graves said, if this is a matter of national security, if this is the action of a foreign government, we're undermining ourselves.
Right.
And that's just mind-blowing to think about. Kimball, we do have a caller on the line, good friend of the show here as well. Bill wants to weigh in. And Bill, I knew this topic would get your attention. Did you follow any of the hearings today?
No, I was busy volunteering somewhere today and at the doctor's office. But I have the solution.
Okay.
There it is.
Our eyes and our minds play tricks on us all the time. All UFOs, Loch Ness monsters, ghosts, and so forth have logical, sound, scientific explanations. Now, yes, we do spy on our allies, and our allies spy on us.
Sure.
And everybody needs to remember that there's always these little things of like, oh, the Air Force has a new plane, but nobody ever sees it. And the F-117 was flying for 5-6 years before they ever made it public. And, we would just so much love to be the person that found this Sasquatch or the Bigfoot, or
that's why we like them,
we would
right?
be absolutely rich, but most of the time it's a bunch of dependent military kids playing a scam. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I love that dependent military kids playing a scam.
He made some good points, and he's mostly right on the, they say, I think it's around 90, maybe 95% of reported UFOs, which there's a lot that aren't reported, but around 90% of them do end up being prosaic. You thought you saw something crazy and you didn't actually, but sure. There's an explanation. So most sightings they are just something you're seeing, but that 10%, only one of them has to be a real extraterrestrial or interdimensional or whatever, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It only has to be a thing once for it to be a thing, and it's just getting people to acknowledge that, I think, is proving difficult.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, and you can take two different approaches to this. Either it's justified because of, national security and secrets that must be kept along those lines, or it's just unnecessary secrecy that then breeds conspiracy theory and suspicion. But there was an incident in Utah here just, I think it was 12, 13 years ago. Residents of West Weber. So there's the tail end of an Army base out there. If you drive 12th Street in Ogden all the way as far as you can go west, you're eventually going to hit a gate and be told by armed guards you can't go any further. And just out beyond that, there was a very bright light that was going up, hanging in the sky for a bit, and going back down. Well, residents of West Weber saw this. There was video. It was shared all over Facebook because Facebook had just become a thing. It had gotten really popular that year.
I don't know that I saw this.
Well, and so the Standard Examiner started asking questions. They said, okay, all these residents saw it. There obviously something really happened, and so they went to the National Guard and representatives of Hill Air Force Base and said, "What were you testing out there?" It panicked some people because it felt weird for them to see in the sky. And the response they got is there were no exercises on this date. You didn't see anything. That was the response they got, which obviously isn't true. And it makes me wonder, is that level of secrecy necessary? You know, could you not say to the public, no offense to whatever was going on out there, I highly doubt it was going to give a foreign adversary, some sort of advantage over us if the representatives at Hill Air Force Base or the National Guard, whoever it was that was involved directly with that exercise, whatever was going on, if they just told the reporters at the Standing Examiner what it was. Probably wouldn't have been a big deal. But instead the response was there were no recorded trainings happening in the area at that time on that evening, and so we don't know what residents saw. But you had so many people. There was a farmer out on his tractor baling dry hay when this happened, and he had video. There were other residents that didn't even know this guy that saw the same thing and described it the same way. Obviously something happened.
Wow.
And yet the response was, shush, you didn't see a thing. Well, what do you think that's going to do? So that kind of came up in the hearing today as well. They talked about this, is there excessive secrecy?
Overclassification. It's a real issue, yeah.
Sure. Because we do have, and I get it, with national security, we balance the public's right to know with, matters of, okay, we don't want this to be public, and we have to understand that that's going to come up. But everything that was presented today seemed ridiculously guarded. To the point where you have, because think about this practically, a commercial pilot could spot, so that whole Chinese surveillance balloon thing last fall, caused a national panic. Everybody was mad at the president for not shooting it down too fast or shooting it down too quickly, depending on, everybody's opinion was all over the place. But it got everyone's attention. And then China's like, oh, yeah, sorry, we were snooping. But if you have a scenario like that with maybe a little bit more nefarious intent, maybe they have more specific. That seemed like a general surveillance thing. We're just going to fly the balloon over and see what's going on in America. But say you had a more specific.
Well, the first one, right? The second two they shot down. I don't know that we. Yeah, we never got photos. They did. One of them was described as cylindrical.
Yeah.
One of them was described as having no means of propulsion. So, I mean, those could be aliens.
Sure.
They didn't actually tell us.
But did you hear the Matt Gaetz testimony today? So he's on the committee that was hearing the testimony of the whistleblowers today, and he told a story today. He said that he saw information about an incident that had been described to him from the Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. Being a member of Congress, he wanted to look into it. People had said what was going on. This was scary to see, blah, blah, blah. And so he said first they were told he was denied. So he was told there was video, that the Air Force Base had video of this thing that people had reported seeing. He asked as a member of Congress to see it so that he could explain it to constituents, and was denied that. And then when he inquired as to why, he was quickly approved to see it with some stipulations. And he said today in the committee that the only thing he could say is that what he saw on the video, he was not able to personally attach to any, quote, human capability.
Wow.
And then he wouldn't say more. And so that gets you back to, obviously, conspiracy theories that you could instantly fill that hole with. But even if you want to be practical and very, not imaginative, some sort of military technology that's being kept a secret. Is this level of secrecy necessary?
I mean, if it were a complete game changer, right? If this was a technological breakthrough that would just absolutely put us, I mean, we're already number one, but it would put us way ahead. It might be justified. But even that, I mean, the implications of that are massive.
Yeah.
And so it would seem like a technology that is surpassive, a word, that like amazing, it almost would seem like a human rights violation to keep that from...
Sure.
I mean, we're still running on gasoline. So, like, if we've got awesome technology that's just being stonewalled at every turn.
Find out that the military has known how the whole fission thing works for decades and just kept it a secret.
We've had hovering skateboards since, like, the 70s, and we didn't even know it.
Here I am walking like a fool. It's a fascinating thing to explore, and the testimony today from these three whistleblowers, these are credible witnesses.
Very credentialed, yeah.
Yeah, these are people taken very seriously in the military and by Congress who were saying to Congress today, something is up, basically. 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
This is Cache County Fire Chief Rod Hammer. Due to current and forecasted weather conditions coupled with extremely dry vegetation, the state forester, in consultation with fire officials, has determined that measures must be taken to prevent the ignition of forest and rangeland fires. Therefore, the following acts are prohibited in unincorporated Cache County and on state lands. 1. There are no open fires of any kind except within established public facilities, in improved campgrounds, picnic areas, or in permanently constructed fire pits at private homes where running water is present. There is no smoking allowed except within an enclosed vehicle, trailer, or building, a developed recreation site, or while stopped in an area that is paved or free from dry vegetation. No discharging or using any fireworks, tracer ammunition, or other pyrotechnic devices, including exploding targets. No cutting, welding, or grinding metal in areas of dry vegetation. No operating a motorcycle, chainsaw, ATV, or any other small internal combustion engine without an approved and working spark arrestor. The Cache County Fire District and the firefighters in Cache County appreciate your help.
One night in Logan. Spend the evening with the Bellamy Brothers. Healthy Kids Society presents the Bellamy Brothers Wednesday, August 9th at the Logan High School Auditorium. With special guest, the Katie Matthews Band. Tickets start at $20 and are available now at thefit.ticketsauce.com. The Bellamy Brothers, Wednesday, August 9th, 7 o'clock at Logan High School. Get your tickets at thefit.ticketsauce.com.
What's a business to do when they get a huge shipment of gorgeous fruit trees just in time for fall planting? Well, of course, you put them on sale. This is Mark at Anderson's Seed and Garden. It's fall cash and carry time at Anderson's. Choose from our selection of fruit trees, shrubs, and more, starting at 15% off. But if you pay with cash, you get an extra 10% off. Shade trees, shrubs, evergreens, and more, 25% off with a cash purchase. Take advantage of the great weather, the perfect planting conditions, and the great sale prices at Anderson's Seed and Garden, 69 West Center in Logan.
Are you a hot sleeper? Warm summer nights can make it hard to sleep. UNI Furniture recommends sleeping cooler with a gel memory foam mattress. UNI features a copper-infused gel memory foam that helps with coolness and circulation. It moves better with you, giving you the best night's sleep. UNI is also the home of Chair Heaven. There's a reason they sell so many chairs, including recliners. For over 90 years, there's always been a better buy at UNI Furniture, downtown Logan.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Thanks again to a longtime friend of the show and personal friend of mine as well, Kimball Mortensen here in the studio.
Glad to be here, Jason.
Oh, fun conversation. It was fascinating to watch this hearing play out. It raises questions of government secrecy, government transparency, UFOs, people being afraid to actually report them, including commercial pilots and military pilots, because they don't want to be seen like crackpots. And then congressmen and women telling their own personal experience today of when they've been shut down by an agency, denied information when constituents have asked, and just really, yeah. So I mentioned this to you, Kimball. I just saw Oppenheimer over the weekend, and it was striking to me, different information age, obviously, but it was striking to me that project, that they were able, it's good they did, but national security is an understatement in that scenario. But it still surprised me they were able to keep this 4-year project where they had basically commandeered every major scientist from around the world and brought them to Los Alamos, New Mexico, and they were able to keep that a secret. But the reason I'm bringing it up is to say, look, we know they can do it. There was a good reason there. I get it.
For sure.
And I'm not criticizing them keeping it a secret in that scenario, but it's just, again, a reminder, we know they have before. We didn't know about the atomic bomb until they dropped it.
Yep.
And so I think it's rational to approach a scenario like this with suspicion, to not just say, well, they said it's just drones.
There could be really good reasons we don't know, and that's kind of the mystery of it. It's kind of the intrigue, really.
Sure. Where do you think this goes from here after the congressional hearing that's played out? Do you think it scared anybody enough to maybe get people to open the vaults a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, Congress has already done quite a bit. They've made it so that anyone who's signed a non-disclosure agreement, I mean, they're basically covered, I think, up to $60 million. So, yeah, I mean, if they come to Congress with information and they're in these departments or these private entities, for that matter, even if they break an NDA, I mean, it's that important for Congress, to hear from them.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it goes from here. I have family members who've had sightings. I recently had my own sighting, and maybe another show for that. But yeah, I even got video of it a couple weeks ago. I'll tell you what, just real quick, if anyone has surveillance, a Ring camera or even a business between 400 West and Main, or in between, like also 800 South and 1800 North, from Tuesday, the 11th of July, at about 10:45 to 10:55 p.m. Tuesday, the 11th, 10:45 to 10:55. Yeah, there was something over 2nd West, and if you've got footage, I'm willing to give you a reward for it, a financial reward. I know that's bold.
No, you showed me the video, and I want to know what it is, too. So